Good afternoon. My name is Bahmani Azdanfar, and this is Voters Echo, a weekly program for Canadians, Ontarians, Torontonians to be exposed to the different ideas, different perspectives from different citizens, different candidates, different parties for that matter, so it can help you to have better understanding of the choices you have in the election years, such as this one that we have for the 19th of October. A couple of the disclaimer: I am under payroll of no entity, no individual, no union. I'm not neither member or sympathizer of any federal registered political party. I am doing this show on my own. I think I get enjoy out of that, as well as I hope that I could help someone to get educated, but it is long shot. The time for the program has been donated by Dr. James Sears as part of his credit to thatchannel.com, and I understand that he is running as an independent candidate himself in the riding of the Beaches East York, and I wish him good luck and success in his endeavor. I have sent the invitation to all of those candidates within 56 ridings inside the GTA and surrounding area that they can reach here within 1 hour or so of the driving or traveling time, to all parties and all independents, as far as that I could find their email address or their Twitter account. I do not endorse any candidates or their affiliated parties. It is your job as a voter, as a citizen, to make that choice. Now, without further ado, let's go to our third guest today in our second section of the program for September 22nd, 2015. Jean, please introduce yourself with the full name and a little bit about your background for 4 or 5 minutes or 3 minutes.
Okay. I want to thank you first for inviting me to the show.
Well, thank you for coming.
Well, my pleasure. What I've seen so far of the show is that you do a very good job of challenging people and trying to draw out better quality information, which makes a better voter.
I would run for the office if I had feel like you.
Well, but it's the right thing to do, too. So my name is Jean Balfour. I'm running for the Libertarian Party of Canada. It's my first time running federally. I've run 3 times provincially already in the same riding.
Which riding is that?
It's Thornhill.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a businessman. I've been working in the IT industry for about 40 years now, starting with IBM as a systems engineer, and then I get into IT recruiting for many years, and now I'm the director of a Canadian consulting firm helping to put together project teams in international countries like Brazil and Mexico. At a personal level, I'm married, very happily married. My wife is a principal of a school. I have 2 grown daughters. Paris is a pharmacist, and she's living in the United States, and very successful, very proud of her. Sky was a professional ballet dancer for the
Sky is the name?
Sky,
very nice
Sky
name.
Balfour Ducharme, yeah. So she was a professional ballet dancer for the Alberta Ballet and retired this year, and now she's going to the University of Guelph. So I'm helping her through university. She's going to try to pursue a path for veterinary medicine.
Guelph is very famous.
Very much so, yeah. So I'm very, very proud of these 2 girls. Intellectually, I have a strong interest in business because I've been in it all my life. I have a strong interest in information technology and how it interacts and improves business. I've seen it for 40 years, the evolution of business and business models as technology has shaped it, and I'm fascinated by that, I always have been. That led me to have a much strong interest in economics. So I did start an MBA many years ago, and one of the courses I studied was economics, and in that course, I thought that the type of economics I was taught was the only type of economics that existed.
Keynesian.
It was Keynesian, yes, exactly. And then I discovered later on that Keynesian economics was the only one that the government endorses because it's to their advantage to endorse it.
Of course.
So anyhow, I discovered about 9 years ago the Libertarian Party of Ontario, and I got exposed to the Austrian School of Economics. I don't know if you're familiar with the Austrian School.
I heard. I didn't read that, but I heard.
Well, I've read about 30 books in the Austrian school, and it's by far and away the most pragmatic and most honest form of economic study. And so now I know the difference between the Keynesian and the Milton Friedman School or the Chicago School and that kind of thing. So
you have point of reference now.
Exactly. So that's been valuable, and that's played a big role in my understanding of how the economy works and what the role of government should be in the economy, or maybe shouldn't be in the economy. On another level, I'm also an athlete, and I'm very proud of that. I studied kinesiology at University of Waterloo. In 1975 is when I graduated. I've applied it my entire life. Health and fitness is the core of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I promote it to virtually everybody who knows me. So I think it's very important.
It's contagious.
Well, but not only that, it's a responsibility, because if you're paying taxes to take care of my health, then I have an obligation and a responsibility to you to make sure that I protect what you're paying for. So that's the way I look at it. But I also look at it because I love it. I just enjoy being active. My wife does too. And we do it together. We do a thing called Skike and Bike together. And we on Saturday we went out and did 30 kilometers. I did the skiking and she did the bicycle riding. And we just have a blast. We love it.
Great. So you are a very content man.
I'm a very content man, yes.
Okay, and that's good. Why politics? Why 9 years ago you decided, I am sporting, I have a good family, I am raising my daughters,
Right.
Especially that time, 9 years ago, maybe they were much younger.
Yeah.
Why all of a sudden politics? What was the trigger?
Well, for the longest while, see, I worked as an IT recruiter on 100% commission. I had no salary for 28 years, and I did very well. And I paid much higher taxes than I thought I should have paid at the time, and only because I was successful, not because of any other reason for it. It would always,
More money, they drain you more.
That's right. I mean, they penalize you for being successful.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically did it on my own because I was I was working for a company, but I was working like an independent, and all they provided me was a computer and a phone and an office space, and that was it. The rest of it was up to me. So that really got me started maybe 25 years ago, when I began to see that the government was taking far more from me than I thought was right or fair. And a lot of people would probably argue with that. A lot of people would say, well, you're making it, you're a successful guy.
25 years ago, it was end of the Mulroney.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But after that, when I got exposed to the Austrian School of Study, economics, I began to get exposed to principles that were, I didn't really recognize the principles as principles that I had been living by because they were important to me the way I thought and the way I worked. But I saw this in the party, and it got me really excited. So I started reading.
Why did you choose Libertarian Party? Did you study other parties, or you just recruited?
No. It comes down to this, and I'm going to show you. Can you see this? Because I'm going to show this to you. This is my.
Sure. The
Okay.
camera. Can you just zoom it?
It's not. I hope you can see it anyhow.
Yeah. And what is that?
So this is what I call a proxy ballot.
Oh,
An
proxy
example.
ballot. Okay.
So what it is you've got 4 mainstream parties at the top. We'll call 3 really, but there's 4. Every one of those parties is of the same nature party. They're a big government party. What they believe in is they believe in taxing the citizens, spending debt, mostly to maintain their operation, and maybe to do some tweaking around the edges. But the reality is that the taxation is far too high, and it's because their philosophy as political parties is that they want to try to sell more services and more government to all of us.
Which I mentioned that in our previous
Right.
episode, that the police needs a crime to be put there.
There you go, exactly right. And so I thought, okay, we're living within a monopoly electoral system. The monopoly is we only have big government parties to pick from.
Okay.
And if I want to pick a small government party, it doesn't exist on the ballot. So what am I supposed to do? So one of the guys said to me, he said, well, if you want to vote for small government, then you should be the small government choice. Join the Libertarian Party and run. And I thought that makes sense. So I voted for myself, and my wife voted for myself. I got 635 votes the first time I ran.
When was that?
That was 2011.
2000, last federal, provincial election.
The
you say.
provincial. Yeah, so 2010 I guess.
Oh,
it was.
in October of
Yeah.
2011. Yeah.
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 But I also
Actually, I ran.
Did you?
I ran. Actually, it was the first year that I registered my provincial political party.
Well, it's fun. It's a real eye opener, as you know. Right?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
You find out that how province have more power than federal government.
Oh yeah, it's true. But the other part of it is that if I didn't have the choice to vote for what I really wanted, then other citizens didn't have it either. They didn't have the choice to vote for smaller government if that's what they really wanted. So the last election we had provincially, Kathleen Wynne got a majority.
Yes.
But she got a majority when less than 50% of the
14.
less than 50% of the eligible voters voted.
14. I calculated.
Really?
Yes. If you get the number of the elected, the 58 of them that's sitting in the House,
Right.
if you collect all of the votes that they got, because the rest that they didn't get it, their vote, really, they don't make decision.
Right.
If you get that and divide it by 9.2 million of the eligible voters, it comes 1/4.
Wow. What she now has is she's got the right to claim that she's my prime minister and your prime minister, and I didn't vote for her.
You mean premier?
Premier, sorry,
Yeah.
premier. And I didn't vote for her, and as far as I'm concerned, her view of the world is not at all like my view of the world.
We had another guest talking about the sex education.
Yeah, well, exactly. I have a concept I call the life lens.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the life lens, it's kind of like the same concept as the worldview. So if you ask a person, how do you think the world ought to be, they'll give you an opinion about how they think the world should be shaped and worked and everything else. So that's the macro view. And I'm saying, what about the micro view? What about your worldview? So you go through life, you have personal experiences, you get an education, you belong to a certain social economic group. Every experience you have, every thought you have, every interaction you have shapes your interaction with the outside world at any moment in time. That's called the life lens. So if you put together a bottle of scotch in front of me and tell me to drink it, I have to make a choice, and I'm going to think about my life
And that
lens.
choice impacts the rest of your life, of course.
It's like chemistry. You
Yes.
keep
It's
mixing
like a
a little bit.
domino. You can't stop it unless you decide to stop it again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the thing is that there are, in Canada, 34 million people each that have their own unique life lens. Every one of them is unique as a snowflake. And here we are trying to pretend that some leader can speak for 34 million unique human beings.
With just 5 or 6 platforms.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And then you look at the size of the government. So the government has, and I counted them, there was 222 federal departments, agencies, boards, and commissions today. Did you know that? 222?
I thought it's more than that, but I take you get your.
That's what I
word for
counted.
it,
Yeah, maybe I was off a couple,
No,
but
no, I thought is close to 300 of them.
Okay.
With the agencies, I mean the Crown Corporations agencies. I don't
Right.
know if you can.
I didn't include crown corporations. So you're right.
Like a CRA or like a Canada Post and this kind
Right.
of thing. They are come there.
The other thing is the Federal Public Service in 2014, I went to Statistics Canada. So they had 257,138 people working for the Federal Public Service in 2014.
200,000?
257.
In Canada is about, we have 22% of the employable population
Is working for the federal
for
government?
any level of the government.
Yeah.
Any level, not.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, look at all these departments. Look at all these people working in these departments. I see that the national debt clock I looked at this morning, right now we have $612 billion in debt.
Oh, I thought it's 650.
No, it's 612 and 800 and
Yeah, that's why we are for 30
Yeah.
billion ahead of money.
Yeah, well, we know, probably you give it 24 hours, it'll probably be there, you know. But the federal spending last year was 279 billion. So our debt level is more than double the annual federal spending of the government of Canada. That's our debt level.
Well, yeah, yes. Just in last 10 years, we had 150 billion added, yes.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
It's true.
familiar with the numbers, yeah.
And then I look
In
at
Ontario, we had 130, 150, 160 billion in
Yeah.
Ontario alone
Yeah, I know.
in 12 years.
Yep, it's true. And we also have federal regulations that relate to business. I'm not talking about anything else but business.
Just
now.
business, yeah.
129,860 regulations that impact business.
That is why earlier I said I had a guest a few months ago. He said, based on the law, everybody is guilty. If you dig in, you find someone is violated something.
So I know what I wanted to do when Kathleen Wynne won. I wanted her to, because in the province of Ontario, there's over 500,000 regulations. So I was going to ask Kathleen to recite all 500,000 regulations.
No, just recite just 500 of them.
Oh, okay. I'll be okay with that. I mean, here we are as human beings expecting to be able to comply with hundreds of thousands of regulations. And it's impossible. It's not humanly possible to do it. So I'm looking at this whole big picture of things and I'm saying, what's the problem here?
And these are the things that percolated in your mind 9 years ago? Or?
It's been evolving over time.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I knew a lot about the debt back then.
No, I know. While after you get into the involved with the party, then you start to educate yourself.
More so, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get to the point where I'm thinking, okay, it looks like we have a government that's far bigger than it should be. I started with taxes. Taxes are too big. So I'm thinking, well, if taxes are too much, and I want to cut taxes, that means I have to somehow cut something in government too. I mean, otherwise I debt finance, right? So, so if I want to take the government and grow it by 10%, then I'm going to have to expand the budget by 10%, and that money's going to come.
Therefore, it's 10% or 12% more taxes.
There you go, right? But the same thing, if I want to shrink the size of the government, then I'm going to have to start figuring out how to do that, and I have to cut the budget in each of the departments or eliminate some of the budget from those departments so I can bring it down. And that means really that what I need to do is I need to reduce the responsibility of government. So when I look at government as government grows one regulation at a time. So if you pass a regulation today, you've just added one more piece of responsibility to the government, which means now they have a justification for spending more money to be able to enforce that regulation.
Well, there is an office, there is 10 other people, they have to follow that, and there is
Exactly
a
the
paper.
point.
It's not just it's not, I had a gentleman by the name of John McKay who is MP for Scarborough-Gilwood.
Right.
And when he was talking about this climate change and tax and carbon, I said, what is the administrative cost involved? You can say all of that, but what is the administrative?
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
Yeah.
So when you get all of that, when you saw all of that, first of all, you said you ran 3 times provincially, 2011 and 2014, I assume.
Last year, yeah.
And what?
There was a by-election.
Which one?
Thornhill.
Thornhill. There
Yeah.
was a by-election.
Yeah.
Now, what was the result of that? I know that we
Yeah.
guys don't get much, but generally speaking, did you?
About 500, sorry, around 500. I had 634
You
votes.
did much better than I did as an independent.
Yeah.
Now, how long is Libertarian Party is around?
Depends on how far you want to go back.
No, I mean the
party itself?
The party itself.
I know provincially it's been more than 25 years. In fact, I think it's 40 years provincially. Federally, I'm new to the federal
Yeah.
side of things, and because I'm busy in my job, I haven't gone into the history that much.
Okay.
So I can't really give you
So
an
it
answer.
is sitting there for a quarter century minimum.
Yeah, but I can
Okay.
tell you this much. I can tell you that the last federal election, there was only 23 people who ran federally in all the ridings.
Yes.
Right now, we have about 85 on our members board.
Great.
And now
Great.
we haven't got everybody who's been signed up yet, so we're still hoping it'll
No,
be at
I
least
saw
70.
I saw the little download the list. I saw about 30 or 40 of them there.
Did you see what we did provincially, though?
No. I'm just talking about federal.
No, but I'm saying provincially, we went from 25 to 73.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about this
No,
election.
I'm talking about both now. Right now, this one is, we're hoping to get over 70.
No, the
Yeah.
last year my show was
Right.
more toward the municipal election. This year is about federal election.
Right,
Usually when I don't run myself,
right.
then I put this show to do my part.
But
now,
see, I don't really distinguish between size of government or level of government. I'm thinking about freedom at all levels of government, and I'm not.
that is my question
Yeah.
that is coming up. Having said that, all of this is going around, and
Right.
this thing is not something that happened yesterday.
No.
This has been around from the beginning of the Babylonian, go to the Romans, and then go to the industrial age, and
Right.
then here we are. And we have, like earlier I was asking one of my guests, we have all these people trying to tell other people what to do, what to think, what to eat, what to breed, how to breed it, and interestingly enough, at the end of each one of those regulation, you end up to bottom line, which is money,
Right.
and money in the form of the tax,
Yeah.
which I asked a number of my guests in the past, how do you want to clean environment with the tax? You can tax me, but pollution is there.
Yeah.
But their answer is with the tax, we are altering the behavior of the public or
Right.
peer, which comes back to the freedom that you mentioned. And I want to ask you,
Right.
where Libertarian Party and the members of the Libertarian Party like yourself, where they stand when it comes to the actual freedom of individual? Not freedom
Yep.
as a charter, freedom as a human being.
Can I give you the theoretical answer as well?
You can, it is your show, it is your time.
Okay.
I am here to learn.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that. So, are you familiar with natural law or the natural rights of human beings under natural law?
Well, yes, I am not really a scholar on that, but
Okay.
I understand it, yes.
So, in our way of looking at things, property rights includes your person, your body, your mind, and what you do with your mind and your body. So if I create a piece of art and I do it myself, I've created that, that's my product, it's mine, I own it, I can do with it as I please. I can sell it, I can put it on the wall, I can eat it, it doesn't matter. I can just, that's if it's my body and I'm the one that gets up in the morning and I bathe it and I feed it and I care for it and no one else is doing that, solely me. So I'm the caregiver and it's something I live within as my vehicle, personal vehicle. Then under those circumstances, natural law would say that's my property. You may not like the term property, but realistically speaking, it's my property.
No, it is the good word to use it.
Yeah. And so, and the same with labor. In labor is when a company wants to get some work done. And being a recruiter for the last 35 years, I'm very familiar with the labor process because I do it every day of my life. And so the company owns the job. The company creates the job. The company pays for the job, defines the responsibility of the job, provides the benefits and the perks around that job, puts it out to the marketplace saying, I want to find the person who's got the best body, mind, and skill set. The assets.
Yes, willing and able to do that.
But they have, that's what they own. That's their part of the equation, and the business is part of the equation. It's just they come together and they talk.
Form a partnership.
Yeah, and if they come to an agreement, and if it works out through the interviewing process, then they shake hands, sign an agreement, and they do business. Now, that's a one-on-one transaction. I have a real problem with one-on-many transactions when you're dealing with labor unions, for example, because labor unions take away that one-on-one negotiation.
Out of the equation.
Totally.
And four people or 5 people in a committee decide on behalf of 50,000.
That's right. But it's also violating property rights because what they're basically doing is that they're allowing a union organization and leadership to potentially damage the property rights of the business. So if I allow a union into my business, and if they want to shut me down, they can shut me down. And if they damage the contracts I have with the companies that I would do business with, and I lose money because of it, that's real property damage. That's real loss. But they have the power to do that. So I have a problem with that from a property rights point of view.
Many people have problem with that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things.
Yours truly is one
Well,
of
that would be one of the first things that I would do if I was ever in a position to do it, is I would try to make Canada a right-to-work country, not just a province.
That is a very noble idea.
It's the only way that works in my mind.
No, that is the way it's supposed to be
Right.
originally with the you call it good word, the natural process of the growth and the development of the human being.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the one principle. There's
Okay.
another one, and it's called the non-aggression principle.
And what is that?
The non-aggression principle says that a human being cannot hurt another person, act on hurting another person, cannot lie or cheat another person, and cannot threaten to lie or cheat to another person.
Which comes back to invading of the property again.
Exactly.
To go hand to hand.
So that's the principle, and this is the action to defend the property rights of the individual. These two go hand in hand. They're bookends, effectively. And I believe in those principles as firmly as I believe in anything in my life. And that's...
So with that definition, I must be libertarian by nature.
Well, as I was listening to you at the show before, and I was probably predicting you are, you know.
And having this principle,
Right.
You see, what you just eloquently described as a rights to a human being, any human being,
Right.
regardless of Canadian or non-Canadian, doesn't matter. It goes back to the old Persian, Cyresian right of the equal right for all religion and this and that, which maybe the charter is copied in the UN to some extent from that charter. Why we are here then? If we have all these intellectuals, all these people, and if we are evolving, which I have a doubt in that, and collectively,
Right.
not individually, why we end up here? You seem to be work with based on what you just described about your history of your life. You work with the different personalities during your recruitment.
Right.
You work with the process because of the IT process
Right.
of the manufacturing.
Right.
So you know the mechanical side.
Right.
You know the flaw side of the human as well.
Okay.
And in many cases, based on what you explained to me in the last 25 years or so, you were putting them together and trying to match them in order to work
Right.
out.
Right.
How come the outcome of the manufacturing part and technology part evolving, but the human part is declining?
You know, it's funny you ask that question because it is something I think about a lot. Because I see the evolution of technology, and it's almost like it's growing almost too fast for the human being
To absorb.
to absorb it. So let me give you an example, right? So as I've watched IT evolve since 1977 when I first got into it to today, and saw the impact of technology on people, decision-making, transaction processing, all the things that we wanted to do to make our lives more easy back in the day. It's gone through these phases where the early phase we tried to automate transactions so we can get rid of a lot of manual dead-minded labor, you know.
To enjoy life,
That's right.
free our life. To
Right.
enjoy.
But what we did is a byproduct of that, we captured data. And we took that data and we threw it into reports, and then after a while, those reports were kind of unwieldy, so we started to get into business intelligence technologies and these
Big
other things.
data and all
Big
of
data. And we created mountains and mountains and mountains of information, data.
which we cannot even process. Them.
Well, that's the thing. The thing is that the human mind seems to have a somewhat limited capacity. It may be spanning, but from my brain, your brain, anyone's brain, to absorb a certain amount of information and be able to make sense of that information and make decisions on it, there's a limitation. So what happens, and what I've watched, is I've watched the evolution of specialization of jobs. Because as the information expanded, we knew there was good stuff in those mountains and mountains of information, but we didn't have the capacity to be able to use it effectively. So we said, okay, we're going to get a guy and we're going to get him to ask, he's going to specialize and he's going to ask a certain set of questions and he's going to go into that mountain of data and he's going to sift around and play with it and come back and answer just those questions because that's all his brain can handle. I'm going to get Joe over here and he's going to do another set of
We
questions.
train him just to do one
Right.
item, so you become a mechanical entity.
You become a specialist, an information knowledge working specialist, because you have access to information that wasn't even remotely feasible 30 years ago. And so the information is there. The modalities to get to that information is there and getting better every day. But the ability to use it effectively and within the limitations of the human mind is what we run into. And that's why I've seen nothing but evolution of specialization throughout IT for all the years, and not just IT, but every other job out there that's dependent upon knowledge and information is becoming more and more specialized. What that does is because the specialization is so, the experience that's required, the knowledge and the skills that's required is generally so rich and so deep that the barriers at entry to get people into that capability, it's really hard to do.
So they neglect their human aspect of that?
No, what it is that our educational system puts all of its emphasis on education because that's what they do. That's their gig in this whole thing, right? But on the recruiting side, I see that education is an entry point into a knowledge domain. But you have to apply that information to gain experience, to make judgments, to fail, to win, to move things along. So that after 10 or 15 years, you've built on that knowledge base you had, you've expanded it, but you've also applied it many times and you've learned how to apply it more or less successfully, and you keep progressing through experience. I never hear of a politician talking about the role of career development and fostering and helping people to be able to navigate through the maze of knowledge working jobs today to get people to really highly productive roles in society. Nobody ever talks about that because the government its gig is education. That's all they want to worry about because they don't know about career development and career evolution.
So little information can be dangerous.
Little information is a starting point. And
No, what I'm saying, if you
Yeah.
just focus from perspective of government, as you describe it,
Oh, yeah.
if you put all of your eggs in the basket of education
Yeah.
and then leave them willy-nilly outside in the society
Yeah.
without having any venue to as you describe, to provide that medium for each one of them to gain that experience, to become part of that expert,
Yeah.
then
that-
we have millions of people running around with a little information. They think they know everything.
Yeah, but the thing is that the stakeholder who stands to benefit from the use of that information is the one who's going to facilitate that. So in other words, if I'm a bank and I can make money by being able to sift through big data and be able to come up with some new offerings and I can make money doing that, then me as the bank, as an investor, I should make the investment in helping those people to have the tools, the training, and get the right people with the right base of experience that I can begin to mold and shape to be able to do what I need to do in this job.
But it is ideal situation, but it's not what we see.
No.
We have people with a high level of the experience running around looking for a job for $15 an hour.
Yeah, but I see exactly the opposite of what you see. What you see is in the press of people with that situation. I see exactly where I get companies who come to me and saying, Gene, I need people with 20 years of experience in this domain, and here's what I want them to accomplish in this job. Gene, I want you to go find those guys.
And how do you go about that?
Well, I use LinkedIn.
I understand that. What I'm saying is not you just open a phone book and say, hey, you have to work to find lots of work.
Darn right.
So that is the problem, right? That by itself is a problem.
But that's what I'm saying, that the knowledge expertise that's required for certain jobs is so rich and so deep, it's really hard to find some of the people who have that right combination of skills and experience. Very hard. I can't get a guy a PhD in chemistry to go off and work on a manufacturing shop floor job.
Let me, it's a good segue that I go back to, because you brought the issue of the government and the issue of focusing on the education. And
I had one other comment I wanted to make, though, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So I gave myself a theoretical job, and that was that in the last election I thought, what if somebody gave me the executive search, because I've done executive search work too, the executive search to find the Premier of Ontario.
That was actually was going to my question. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay, if the citizens of Ontario came to me asking me to do that search, what would I do? How would I define the job responsibility?
How would you do?
Well, that's the point. When I started to think about it, I began to realize that no one human being has the capacity, and Kathleen wouldn't even be on my list.
Of course they are not.
She wouldn't
they wouldn't be. They wouldn't be.
Totally. As an executive search recruiter, her knowledge in most of the areas of business is about that deep. You can scratch the surface, you can see bare metal afterwards.
I had when I started this series of the show in June. The very first guest of my show was Greg Vezina, the leader of the newly registered None of the Above party in 2014, just last year. And and I asked him, that is why I wanted to ask you, because you said recruiting. I said, and please help me to understand from your perspective.
Okay.
I asked him, how come I'm just average man? I don't consider myself smart. I don't consider myself dumb neither, but I'm not really that intelligent or something. A common man, and I'm just wondering, by looking at people, if you go and apply for a job, let's say McDonald's, or in the IT industry like yours, your industry, which is high end, or in the medical field or anything, the process is very simple. The process.
Right.
I'm looking for a doctor or IT expert.
Right.
I call Gene. Gene knows what I want. I tell him what he wants. He goes and finds 10 candidates. They put the resume, they interview, they do a little bit of the skill test, and then you send the guy or gal to for interview. They have to evaluate him or her. They do that, and then maybe 2 or 3 times, and then finally they choose one person and provide an offer of job.
Right.
My question from Greg Vezina was that, how come when it comes to our politicians, let alone Prime Minister, we do not have any process whatsoever? Every Tom and Dick and Harry can come up, put the ballot, go to one of these mainstream party, mainly in the history of Canada, and just as soon as they get elected, today they are distributing flyer in the corner begging people for vote. Tomorrow they get cabinet minister, they become honorable. My question from perspective, do you find it ironic that for the highest level of the job, who makes those people make decision on behalf of millions of people, we do not have any process?
I love your question. I absolutely love your question. You know want to know why? because it explains exactly why I'm a libertarian. Because I don't want to put a lot of people in charge of my life who have no expertise in any of the domains that they're going to be responsible for. They're going to make decisions, and they're not competent to make those decisions. They don't have the background for it. So why would I vote for a big government with people, and I'm going to put them into positions where they have no background or experience for? I'm going to pay lots of taxes to those people, and what are they going to do? They're not going to really offer me much value in return. So that's why I want to take a government, and rather than defining a government with all these 222 departments we talked about, I'm saying, no, let's take government and shrink it down to its core functions, which is...
Basic health, security, or
No, it's not even that. It goes back to the two basic principles of the Libertarian Party, which is natural law says that your personal property, your body, your mind,
oh yes,
your
the
work,
one that you explained earlier.
right?
Yeah.
That is the first and foremost role of government. It should be to protect the person, the individual. Number one. And you have to have the medium or the mechanisms for doing that. So the non-aggression principle, which means you have to hire certain people to be able to protect those. And it might be in healthcare, and it might be in police, and it might be other areas, but it may not be the monopoly model that government uses today, because monopolies have been outlawed in the private sector, but why is it that's the only thing they do in government, right? I mean, that's a double standard, like nobody's business, but that's what we have today.
Yes.
Governments run monopolies, and we can't do it. We go to jail if we try to do it, you know?
Well, as I always said, I am a handicap in English language, but to serve and protect is in complete sentence. I don't know who they are serving, who they are protecting, or what they are serving and what they are protecting.
I don't consider it ironic, to answer your question. It's not an irony to me. What it is, it's a failure of the democratic system that we have. That as long as big government politicians can tax us, can take money at force, recognizing that taxation is not a voluntary activity. If you don't pay your taxes, you go to jail.
Of course.
So it's not voluntary. So they can take it from you by force or threat of force, the non-aggression principle. Then they can use that money to promise you all kinds of stuff so they can get elected. And they can put these people in that do not have the backgrounds at all to be able to do these jobs. They're just people, like you said, distributing flyers on a corner one week, and next week they're an MP making $156,000 a year with a huge benefits and whatever else.
It comes close to $300,000-$400,000.
I mean, that isn't right at all. So what I'd rather do is I'd rather say, citizens, keep your tax dollars. I'm not going to take it from you. I'm going to cut the taxes down to maybe 20% of what it is today. We're going to cut the government responsibility down from 200,000 rules and regulations, and we're going to bring them down to the ones that are going to protect the core of your rights as a citizen in this country. And it's going to be equal for everybody.
And easy to understand.
Yeah, but it'll be equal.
Yeah.
Right now, did you see this in the National Post?
16 elections?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that.
Excellent article. What it basically said is that this election is about fighting over 16 different areas or segments of the population. So the government...
Oh, yeah. I pointed out in previous shows that it is like old Churchillian or English style of the divide and conquer, just ghettoizing. Because I was born in Iran. I came to Canada 30 years ago. I studied in Afghanistan. I have seen war. I have seen death and human loss plenty of times. And I'm not talking about in the tube. In person. And the purpose of me being here is to integrate rather than to be divided. They take the tax money, they use the term multiculturalism, and then the ghettoizing every ethnicity.
Right.
And the reason at least I believe is they can control a couple leaders in those ethnic groups. It's easier to get the vote.
That's right.
So they are not really helping to any ethnic group. I don't think so.
And they are using big data technology today to figure out.
Of course, right now they have they have better list than Elections Canada
That's right.
has.
But when you think about McDonald's and the big corporations that are using all this fancy technology to be able to study how to target selling their products to us in the marketplace,
the same thing applies.
This is identical.
The same thing applies.
Yeah.
And the winner is like a Olympic. It's just a small epsilon amount of that data analysis can make you win or lose.
So what if we shrunk the government to a very small size? And only restricted it to those areas of responsibility? You'd get rid of all those ghetto votes, because The entire government program, every rule, every legislation that would exist after that would apply equally to everybody. No pandering to special groups. Laws are meant to be applied equally, regardless of where you live, who you are.
Like last year we had everybody is talking about the gay parade. They talk about the caravana. They got about the festival and the city giving money. Why the tax if they want to have parade? Have it themselves. Why tax money has to go there?
But that's the point. I mean, they want to take it through. And what people don't understand is that once you take money and you put it through the tax system, so if I take $100 and I have to give it up in taxes to the government today, then you know within the government that 54% of the operating costs of government today on average are wages and benefits. 54%. Then you start adding office space and a bunch of other things, so maybe you get up to like 80%. So the $100 becomes $20 of useful money. Now, if you want to help somebody who's poor, are you going to give it to the middleman, the government, let him take $80 and only give the poor guy $20? Or are you going to go to your local
community center or whatever,
and give that money directly to the person or to people who are going to give it to those people? So I want to get rid of the middleman. I want to get rid of the broker who's got very high expenses.
Jim, can you tell me, after 25 years or so existence of the party, you guys usually have good pool of the candidates, more or less,
reasonably good,
among the small parties. I mean, it's one of them is you, and one of them is Leninist Communist Party. They have a good pool of the gay guy. Why? What is it like? Let me be a little bit candid.
Right.
Is this game that rigged that in 25 years, not even one member of your party or Leninist Communist Party or any other party that they had more than 50 candidates, either provincially or federally, could get in?
Well, largely we're considered irrelevant and fringe. And so
that is the term they use to.
But it's the big budget. Global TV would not interview me. I'll tell you that right now.
I've been
they wouldn't
there.
talk to me.
I've been
you know what
there.
I'm talking
I've
about.
Been there, yes.
So people get their news through the mainstream media. They get some of it through smaller medium like this as well, and that's why I appreciate this so much, because I'm going to be on Rogers TV too, but it won't be on prime time. It'll be one of the local community stations.
They changed it actually. Someone sent me an invitation and they asked me. I said, when I was running last time, they had 1 hour. It was live show. They put the four main party's candidates for 45 minutes. At the end of the program, they told us to go there for a minute and a half, introduce ourselves. And someone told me just a couple of days ago, or sent me an email, he said, well, that is not what you told me. I said, well, what is this? She sent me the email and I look at it and say, the reason they give you that, first of all, we did a lot of complaint. Of course, a lot of people like me. Maybe they decided because of the Election Finance Act, because it is illegal, but based on their own law, it is illegal. You use the airtime, it is contribution by the corporation unless it is equal. But I noticed what they did. They do the pre-recording. You are not live anymore. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
If you read your invitation and go down, it says we will record you on, let's say, 5th or 8th of October, and it will be broadcast on 2 or 3 days later, whatever it is. So do you think that is why I said I want to be candid. Do you think the game is that rigged that the mainstream media is in the same bed as the mainstream parties? It is a form of the conspiracy not to let anyone to get in?
I'm not sure it's a conspiracy, but I think
what is the definition of conspiracy?
Well, they scratch each other's back.
I understand that, but that way, when it comes to the livelihood of the people and decision making of the nation, as you described, 34 million people, entity with a different lens.
Do you know what the proper definition of fascism is?
I have heard many definitions, but I like to hear yours.
Okay, so fascism is the collusion between big government and big corporation or big business. It's a collusion.
We are seeing it here vividly.
So we're seeing it in the media, we're seeing it in banking, we're seeing it in the telecommunications industry. There's all kinds of barriers to entry because of regulations and because of a number of other things in the major sectors, corporate sectors in Canada. And media is no different. So they're scratching the backs of the big parties with all the money and all the prestige and all that kind of thing, and vice versa. The parties are making sure that they're going to get what they need to be able to sell their airtime or their press time. That's what's going on. If we made a big enough splash as a Libertarian Party, and if we became a full slate party, for example, we'd probably get more airtime. And if we got some more people in seats and get elected, we'd get more again. And if we put better people in, it would start to grow. The NDP came from nothing, 25, 30 years ago, to what they are today. So it's possible.
NDP had the history of CCF, history with Tommy Douglas and all of
exactly.
that. But the better example is the conservative we have. They are not conservative, they are Reform Alliance Party, and the reason they rise that fast within 20, 25 years is because they have benefactors with the deep pockets.
Yeah.
Do you have kind of the benefactor Libertarian parties there?
You know how much fundraising I've done?
Zero. The same thing. No, how about the party by itself?
Party, we have some money. Have you seen Tim Moen, who's our leader?
No, I saw his picture, but I haven't.
Go to YouTube and watch one of his videos. He's very impressive. He really is. Young guy, married, 4 kids, 42 years of age.
He's in Edmonton.
He is. Yeah. But he was a firefighter. And I met him. We had a conference here last summer, and I met him.
I cannot send the invitation for a small show for people out of province.
He's very well spoken. He's a very good-looking guy too. So
it is young stud.
He is. I mean, he's got a lot going for him right now. He needs more airtime, is what he needs. People need to see him as a leader, because he is a leader. He's a natural leader, this guy, and the way he talks and the way he talks to the issues. He's a very well-educated Libertarian who understands the principles. He makes mistakes like everybody else too, but generally he's still growing.
If you claim you don't, then there is something wrong with you.
Yeah, we have to learn from our mistakes. I agree with you totally. No, I admire him. I really do.
I wrote some articles in the past. Unfortunately, mainstream media don't publish it, so I have to rely on the local or online. And in one of them, the issue of the money, I used to say it is not anymore democracy, it's a monocracy or something. But when you brought the issue of the fashions, it was very interesting, because I remember when I was attending a course in the University of Saskatchewan, I'm talking about 25 years ago.
Right.
And it was political science 101 or whatever was that. And I had a little bit of the verbal clash with my professor, of course.
Yes.
Because of my nature, not because I'm reasonable. But I claim that we are living the financial dictatorship at that time.
Yeah.
And I had only 5 years experience living in this country.
Right.
With a very limited amount of the vocabulary in English language. But after Bill C-51 came to the effect a few months ago, a gentleman by the name of the Rocco Galati, which is one of the top-notch constitutional lawyer, who has defeated government in a number of the cases. He had, I was watching his YouTube footage for 5 minutes. He called it quiet dictatorship.
Okay.
Which is very close to your definition of the fascism.
Yeah.
Because these deals are in the back, behind the closed doors.
Well, of course, it's business. Let's face it. They're gonna do whatever going to benefit their organizations, and it makes more sense for them to collude with certain parties that will give them more airtime, that people want to see. It's like the movie industry, Hollywood. Are you going to put a no-name movie star you've never seen before in there into a big picture with a big budget, or are you going to put in one of the biggest names in the game? It's the same idea.
I agree with the principle, but the part that I have a problem to digest is with the business. As you know, you describe yourself with the employer who is looking for a suitable. It is one-on-one.
Right.
When it comes to business, it has to involve all parties, and people equation is missing in that negotiation.
I'm not sure I understand you, and I'll tell you why.
Well, okay.
Okay. Libertarian is about trade. It's about free and unencumbered trade between two parties.
Okay.
Those two parties can be two individuals.
Okay.
It could be one individual and a corporation.
Okay.
Or it could be two corporations.
Okay.
And as long as it's not been rigged, but there's some money or something going on
Yes,
the table,
I understand.
or regulations have not been set up to make the market anti-competitive in the favor of one of them, as long as you're not impeding on somebody else's rights and property, okay? Then to me, any kind of trade, as long as the two parties agree, and they've got legal entities to make those agreements, I have no problem with them making those agreements.
Oh, I don't have problem with that.
Yeah.
The part that I said problem when the government is elected by people.
Oh, well, that's different, yeah.
That part.
Yeah.
For instance, when our government goes and make a deal with China and sell the natural resources of here,
Yeah.
we thought involving the interested party
Yeah.
in that deal.
Yeah.
That part I'm talking about. I'm not talking about.
No, okay, I misunderstood you, sorry. Okay.
How are we doing, Chris, on time? 5 or 10 minutes?
Oh, Chris, we're gonna go for hours, okay? So we're having a good time here.
Can you just briefly describe, do you campaign at all?
Not really, no.
No, not really.
Yeah.
Redundant anyhow for individual basis or small parties. How do you reach to your? How do you convey your message to your constituents, if
Well,
you do?
I mean, I talk to anybody and everybody who's willing to talk about government and how it's too big and how the taxes. I love to engage people in discussion just like you're doing right now. And I'm passionate about doing it. We were at my
So
wife.
I should get you after election. Come here and become the co-host kind of thing.
Sure, that'd be fun. I'd love to do that. We were at my wife and I had our anniversary last night, so we went to the restaurant.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And so we were talking to a young Korean girl who was serving us, and of course I said to her, I said, "Are you going to vote? Have you been following the election?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Are you old enough to vote?" 'Cause she looked pretty young. And she said, "Oh yeah." And I said, "Are you planning to vote?" And she said, "Yeah, I am." And I said, "So if you're not following the election, then how are you going to decide who you're going to vote for?" And she looked at me kind of.
A strange question. I just go there and I choose based on name.
Yeah. And then I started asking her some other, because she's studying a master's degree in finance. So she's a highly intelligent, educated young lady. She studied economics, but it was a Keynesian version of economics.
Oh,
of
yeah,
course.
it was from Korea?
No, she's studying here in Toronto.
No, I know, but she was originally...
She's from Korea.
Yeah, because I noticed that South Asian are being taught at the school of the...
No surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all around the world. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a fiat money system in every Western
Yeah.
country in the world today.
Of course.
Yeah.
It is. I want because you are close to I want you to have a minute or so.
Okay.
Talk to your constituents. Like I am not here.
Okay.
Which camera is that? Is that one? I want you just based on what you are or who you are. Assume constituents are sitting in the audience.
Okay.
Tell them why they should vote for you.
Okay. So, folks, I'm Gene Balfour. I'm in Thornhill, and I've been in Thornhill for 23 years. I'm not asking you to vote for me, Gene Balfour. What I'm asking you to do is to vote for an idea, and the idea is the idea of small government. A lot of people think that's difficult to do, but I don't think it is, because we already know what big government looks like. We already know what high taxation looks like. We already know what lots and lots of regulations look like. And because we know these things and we've lived with them for many years, how much effort would it take for us to start imagining what parts of this big government scenario we could begin to whittle away? And how far would we want to take it? I'm not going to stand in front of you and I'm not going to tell you that I've got all the answers, because frankly, you're not voting for me, you're voting for a smaller government where you are the ones who make decisions, not me. I want to see this is just me talking now, but I'd love to see a country where decision-making power goes from centralized governments that's in the hands of politicians who've never met you. They know nothing about you. They don't know your family, your friends, the kind of work you've done, nothing. I'd like to put all that power back into your hands. I want to put the tax dollars back into your hands, because I think that you are in a much better position to decide how to spend your money. You know, to use that money for the priorities of you and your family and whatever else you want to do with it, because you earned it, you deserve to use it. And I hope that you'll vote for small government. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Well said. Well said. I always said to myself, I said, I am not counting on your vote because you don't vote for me anyhow.
They don't know me. They have no idea who I am, you know.
I am going to close the program. First of all, thank you very much for accepting my invitation and coming here.
That's my pleasure.
Very intellectual. I mean, I enjoy the level of intelligence that you brought to the discussion.
Thank you.
And I hope those who have seen it or those who will see it on YouTube, it will be in 2 or 3 days or so, enjoy as much as I did.
Well, thank you very much.
And learn as much as I did, actually.
Well, I'm just hope I love what you're doing, because the more people see of the variety of ideas out there, the better position they'll be able to sift through and make decisions.
I am always,
Yeah.
as you said, individual lenses of
The life
us
lens, yeah.
should be exposed. We are not imposing any idea or any
No.
dogma. It is just available.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
My pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. It is Tuesday, 22nd of September 2015 or 2015. Please remember, as I always say, remember to take part in your electoral process, which is only thing left of democracy the way that I see it. Maybe some people don't agree with me. Vote, donate, help a candidate, become a volunteer, and more importantly, you yourself become a candidate.
And tell your friends to watch this show.
Thank you. Hair.